Hi, this is the second video that I'm going to be making about how to use Microsoft Word, which is a word processing package, and also just how to make folders and things like that on your desktop. Your desktop is basically this, the screen that you're looking at. We call it the home screen with our iPads. Okay, now this is the third time I've done it because I've made a mess each time before and not recorded the sound, so hopefully I'll get it right this time. Okay, so let's see what we can do. What I did then, actually, you might have noticed, it went quiet, was I paused to check that the program I'm using is recording the video, and luckily it is. Okay, so here we have a document called Perfect Pupil. Now let's go into that document. So you double click. There you go. Now remember, some of the things that you were asked to do was to put these here. Was to put these here in a vertical line, and that's what it meant. And that was using the enter button. So let me show you how that is. Can you see where the cursor is here? I put it on there, you left click, and then the enter button is the biggest button on your keyboard, and it is the button that's kind of got a symbol like this on it. Okay, with an arrow. Sorry, it's hard to draw with the mouse. Alright, that's the enter button, and it's the big one. Oops. The one above is a backspace or delete button, which looks like an X in another box with an arrow on. Sorry, this is terrible drawing, but you'll have to forgive me. Okay, now there we go, I'll get rid of that. Now I've clicked my cursor on here and I can press enter. That moves it up and down, and backspace, and that moves it back up. Okay, so what else were you asked to do that we might have got a little bit muddled? We highlighted the last word in yellow. Now all of this up here is going to look, all of the top part of my screen, it looks different to the one in the ICT suite. I'm sorry about that. Okay, that's unfortunate, but basically it does the same things. Alright, so what I'm looking for is to highlight something in yellow. Now there it is. If it wasn't on the toolbar that I'm looking at now, for example that, what you have to do is just click across and search and look for it. Yours also had a little pull down menu somewhere here, a little arrow a bit like that there. Okay, and some of you needed to press on that to get this icon up. So anyway, there's that. Okay, Perfect Pupil, I'm going to highlight it. That goes into yellow. Okay, now remember, you weren't asked to do that. Let's pretend I've made a mess and I didn't want to do that. Here's the little button that you press up at the top here. Can you see it? That's the undo button. We should know that. I think it was just the last word that you were asked to highlight, and in yellow. Remember, we've got to think like a computer, and to think like a computer you've got to follow the steps in the order that you are given them, and you can't change, you can't be creative if you're thinking like a computer. So sometimes you can when it's not computational thinking, obviously. Right, so what else did we have a few little problems with? Well, there was that one that we need to move that down and then type our names there. Another one was centering. Now I'm going to highlight all of this text here, and you have to look for the little icons, and sometimes it's good to hover. That means just hold it above the icon, your mouse above the icon. You can see here that this is a darker colour and this is a darker colour, because that is what is being used at the moment. Okay, so that there is text to the left like we normally use. This there, oh look, it says center, text in the middle, and then the other one text to the right. Okay, so we wanted text in the middle, and now I left click with the mouse, and there it is. It kind of stops it from being highlighted. Okay, there were a few other things that we found tricky. The font, we seem to forget what the word font means. Now we should know it from using your iPads. The font basically is the style of the letters that you are using. Up here you can see on this layout of Microsoft Word, it tells you Calibri. Okay, and then when you click on that, you have lots and lots of options that you can use. All of these ones, more than on your iPad, I think. So you could be creative here. It said choose whichever one you want as long as it's legible. That means that you can read it. So I am going to go with Broadway. Okay, we can all read that, no problems. Now actually, let's say if I wanted to make it smaller or bigger, do you think you could see where you would make the font size smaller or bigger? Yep, it's this bit here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to click on that, and you can see it going smaller and bigger as I'm moving down? Obviously that would be too big, so something sensible. Let's have that. Okay, so I've changed it to 20. Right. This thing here with the instructions in is a text box. Now, as you can see, when you click on it, you can change the words inside. Oh, I don't want to do that. Remember what I do. Go back up to the undo one. Oops, no. Now another little icon's popped up there. I've gone back too far. I'm going to go the other way, which is kind of redo. There you go. That's what happens if I click on inside the box. But if I click on the top of the box here, can you see how you get that little cross symbol with the arrows on the end? That allows me to move the box about. I'm going to put it here out of the way for a little while. What else did we need to think about when you were doing the task? Well, bold, maybe that was one of the things. Highlighting that's the chorus that you do every time. And bold is up here somewhere. Can you spot where it is? I'm hovering over the icon. There you go. It's popped up where it is, bold. And that's made it darker. You can't really see it with the font that I'm using at the moment, which is unfortunate. But here's another one, italics. See what happens? Nothing happens. Can you work out why? Yeah, I've not highlighted it. So here we go. There's the italics. On, off, on, off. Underlined on, underlined off. Bold on, bold off. With this font it's a bit weird, so don't worry too much about that. What else did we find tricky? Inserting, I think it was number 7 or 8. Nope. Here we go. Number 10. Add a word art title. Perfect pupil. Word art. Now you're using an older version of Word, so it's not got the same top pull down menu that we have here, unfortunately. So what you've got to do is click across. Now there was one, I think it was either insert or the one next to it. And then when you pull down, there was a pull down menu, more like it's not got one on this one, doesn't use it the same. There was a pull down menu anyway, and you'd see picture, okay, and then you could go into word art. But if you look across this pull down menu here, you can see bingo, word art. Alright, so you can choose any one of these that you want. That's your freedom, that's the creativity. So I'm going to pop that one in. The title is Perfect Pupil. Now, is that how you spell perfect? I'm sure there was some of you shouted, Mr. Fraser, that's wrong. Now you can change the font of that here as well, so I'm highlighting it, the font here. I'm going to change it a different style. Can you see? I like that. You can make it bold, you can make it bigger, etc. with that. So I'm going to put that one in. Now that is here. do we put a title in the middle of a page? No. So how do we get it up to this point here? Okay. Right, so let's see if we can. I'm trying to grab it and move it up. Oops, it's moving it a bit, isn't it? And I managed to do it. But I want it in the middle. How would I get it in the middle? Can you remember? Maybe page layout. Was it on there? Was it on insert? Was it on home? Right, can you remember? I hope you can. Here is highlighted. The bold is highlighted. I want it in the middle, so I just click on there and it puts it in the center. I don't want that bit in the center, I'm going to move that to the side. But it's moved everything to the side. This is a bit tricky, so what I usually do is kind of to format it, which is change it into a way that it's easier to move things around the screen. And we'll be using this later on when we use insert some clip art. Alright, so let me just show you where it is. On yours, I don't think it will be in page layout. I think it might be in insert or the one next to it that I just can't remember what it is. But on mine here it's page layout and it's this one here. Wrap text. Okay. Now I'm going to change it so that I get that pull down menu. There's your pull down menu. Now if I grab this and put it in the middle of the text here, I can demonstrate it a little bit more. It's highlighted, you can see all the little squares in the corners. Now what I'm going to do is show you as I'm going down. That's in front of the text. Can you see how it's stood in front of the black text? There it goes behind. There it goes at the top and bottom, I think. If you put it there, it's kind of sitting through the text. There, it allows the text to go around it. That's what I normally use, but it depends on what you want. There, it makes the text square around it. Okay, so it depends what you want to do with it. But for me, I'm going to put it this way. I usually use this one tight so the text goes around it. And can you see how that arrow, like 4 arrows in opposite directions, almost like a compass point, they pop up. I can move it to there, and that's there. Okay, so remember about that one, it's in page layout, but you've got a different option to choose beforehand, and I wish I could remember what it was, but I can't. But there's a challenge. You try and do that. Okay, so what else do we need to do? Well, this insert an appropriate clip art picture. So insert, look for little clues there. There's a clue in that word, insert. So maybe it's inserting here. Okay, so remember, if this would be if I wanted to add a picture. There's clip art, there's the word art we used before, all different types of things. A text box there, which is basically this whole thing here is your text box. Right, so what I want to do is clip art. Double click. Now here we go. This has popped up here. Now that's the previous search that I had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, right, a perfect pupil, what could I type in for the computer to look for? Well, the one that was there before is probably the easiest one. You would expect a perfect pupil to have lots of smiles, okay? So I'm going to put smiles or smile, and then press go. And in clip art, all these options will pop up, all the different ones that they've got for smile, okay? I'm going to like this one, it's a little bit silly. See, clown, funny, smile, smiling, tongue out. If you'd have typed any of these things here, this would have popped up. I can double click that, and it's not going to let me do it. So let me try a different one just in case. It's letting me do that one. Now that's a little teeny weeny one. You might sometimes get it and it's huge. So what you've got to do is grab hold of these corners, and when those 2 arrows appear, you can pull it out, okay, and then pull it out. Now again I'm going to have the difficulty. See, I can move it around a bit but not much. It's quite tricky. So what I'm going to do again is to format it, to make it so that I can move the picture around easily. Now, was it in home? I'm looking across. No. Was it insert? I'm looking across. No. Remember, I'm looking for the picture with lines around a dog. There we go, text wrap. And what I'm going to do is the type one, but you could do anything you wanted. You could do top and bottom, so that puts the text above it and below it. You can put it behind the text, you can put it in front of the text, but then you wouldn't be able to read the poem, would you? Okay, you need to have a play around with these things. I'm gonna go top and bottom, so the text is above or below. Or if I wanted to move it around more, I'd have gone tight, and then you can move it easily. Move it to where you want, and you can see how the text kind of hugs it, it goes around it. Okay, I'm going to do that there. Now, I think they were the main things that you had to do. Now I'm going to go to this text box here. There's something missing, it's hidden, so I'm going to pull that down a bit. Okay, here's the final thing. Delete this text box and save your work. So to delete, on your keyboard there is the enter button that we talked about before. Remember, it's got a kind of arrow going like that. Above that there's the backspace, which acts like a delete. So if I highlight this and then I do the backspace, it gets rid of it. Now let's pretend I made a mistake, and what I'm going to do is up here undo it. Okay, now the one at the right hand side, the SUPR, which is delete, that also will delete the text box. So I'm going to highlight the text box and delete. Can you see it? I'm only deleting that bit there, so I need to get onto the box and then delete it. And there's that. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a moment to see if I've got enough time to continue. Hi, so what I did then was I paused, I checked I was still recording, and I saved what I'd done already, so that even if I make a mess of this part of it, I've still got the old bit, so I won't have to do it again. Because remember, I've had to do it this is the third time that I've had to do it. Right, so I'm closing down clip art. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to save this document. Now let's pretend I wanted to keep the first document, the first Word document that I was working on. There's lots of reasons you may want to keep it. For example, sometimes you make a mess and you want to start again. So what I'm going to do is to save this new version as a different name. So before it was called John Perfect Pupil Y6E. So now I could do something logical. I could call it John Perfect Pupil Y6E and then number 1. Now I want to save it on my, I'm going to save it on my desktop, so then you can see it. So can you see these things moving up and down? There's your desktop, which is like your home screen on your iPad. And save. Okay, now I can close this and it just closes. But if you remember before, sometimes I've said that you can close using the X button. If you've made changes, what will happen would be just type in a bit of gobbledygook there and I press X. The computer knows I've changed something, so it's asking me, do I want to save the changes? You must always make sure that you save those. But at the moment, this is the original document that I worked on, the old document. So I'm going to close that. I don't want it. I'm going to say yes, save it. Okay. Now remember, before I saved it as a different document. So it's up here. There. Can you see it? and I'm going to bring it over here. So now I've got two documents. This is the old one, this is the new one. So we must make sure that we're organised when we're doing work on our PCs. So what I'm going to do is to make a folder. I hope you can remember. It was right click on the mouse and then this pop-up menu comes. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Yes, I'm looking for a new folder. Okay. Now if I try to type on there now, what happens? There you go. I can name it straight away. So let's say John Y6E. Okay, and then I click off it, left click off it, and I can do two things. I can click on that, that's the left click, then right click, and let's say I want to get rid of that document from the desktop, to remove it and put it in that folder. I can cut it and it kind of goes a different colour, and I can go into there and then I right click again and then I paste. Now watch what happens here when I paste. Okay, it disappears from the desktop. So that's now in that folder. So in John Y6E, that original document's there. Another way, an easier way of doing it is, well, if you practice it, it's easy. But if you grab hold of it, so you hover over it, you keep your left finger, your index finger, the one that you point with, down, and you drag it along, and you pop it in there. Can you see how it says move to John's Y6E? Bingo, there it is. And there it is in there. Now let's say I made another document in here and I made some changes, say I didn't like that part. I'm going to delete it. Remember there's two ways, and then I'm going to quickly insert a word art. I want that one instead. I managed to spell it right this time. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. Okay, it goes in there. Remember what I did to get it in the middle? Text wrap. I like doing this one. Okay, that's it. I can move it wherever I want. It's on top there. And remember, you can make it bigger or smaller by dragging things. You can make it fat and thin. Okay. Move it up. Alright, there you go. Now I'm going to save. Remember, click. Now that would save the changes, and there's one Y6E1. But let's say I want to save that as a different document. I go back up here and save as, and I'm going to do it as logically 2. Save. Now I hope you're thinking, right, there should be 3 documents in this folder now. There you go, the original, 1, and then 2. Now let's say that we wanted a folder for our class. So I'm going to right click again, new folder, and that's going to be Y6E. Click off it, left click off with your index finger, the one you point with, and then we could do two things. I could either highlight it, right click, that's with your finger next to the one you point with, and I could cut it and then pop it in there, or I can do the same as I did before, which is get hold of it and drag it. I'm holding my finger, my index finger, the one that I point with, down all the time, and then I release it, and there it goes into there. So I've got a folder in there, and that's how we keep organised. So I want you to have a practice at all of those things. Just pause the video and have a go. Maybe watch the video on your iPad, might be a good idea, and practice on a PC if you can, if you've got a PC at all, a laptop or whatever. Okay, some people might have a MacBook, and that's a little bit different. I can do some tutorials for that another time. So that's me finished now. I would like you to maybe put a comment on the blog to see if you found it useful or not, or ask me to do things and I can do different videos for you, or you can tell me about anything about school you would like to on the blog, on the Year 5-6 blog. For example, How did you enjoy the science activity that we did in the resources room with the UV light, things like that? Remember, read the blog rules as well, so there's lots of information there for you on the blog. Okay, the best of luck, and I hope next time when we're in computing we're more successful. Bye bye.